There's a version of innovation that gets all the attention: the moonshot, the billion-dollar lab, the press release. And then there's the kind Japan specializes in: the quiet redesign of something you interact with every single day, done so well that when you finally notice it, you feel a little embarrassed it took you this long. Not a new product category. The same product category, but finished. Actually finished. Here are Japanese ideas so smart, they're on a whole new level. Anti-drowsiness car seat sensors. The seat that knows you're falling asleep. Drowsy driving kills. Not occasionally, routinely. The U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration estimates tens of thousands of crashes annually are caused by fatigued drivers. The standard solution is a sign telling you to take a break, which is about as effective as a sign telling you not to be tired. Japan developed a different approach. Toyota and several Japanese automotive engineering firms have been developing car seat systems embedded with arrays of sensors that monitor the driver's vital signs continuously, without any wearable device, without any camera pointing at their face, and without requiring them to do anything differently than they normally would. The sensors read micro vibrations in the seat that correspond to the driver's heartbeat and respiratory rate. Those signals are processed by onboard algorithms that compare them against established baseline patterns for alert versus fatigued states.
It will activate a visual warning on the screen. Drive safe.
Face reading vending machines. The machine that knows what you want. Japan has one vending machine for every 23 people, more per capita than any other country. They sell beer, ramen, umbrellas, and fresh produce. And since around 2010, the most advanced have been reading your face before you touch the screen. JR East Water Business deployed machines at Tokyo Station with cameras that analyze estimated age, gender, and time of day. Then surface drink recommendations calibrated to those factors before the customer has made any selection. A man in his 40s during morning commute hours sees a different recommended front page than a woman in her 20s at midday. The system integrates temperature data, cold drinks in summer, hot drinks in cold weather, and continuously updates its model based on what customers actually choose after seeing the suggestion.
Ooh, it's a fiber-rich salad. It's got a type of sweet potato called Beni Haruka.
Smart grocery baskets with auto-scanning, checkout while you shop. In 2016, Panasonic unveiled the Reiji Robo system with Lawson convenience stores in Osaka. A shopping basket with embedded RFID readers that scan every tagged item placed inside it automatically, maintaining a running total as the customer shops. When done, the basket is placed on the checkout station. Its base slides open, the contents drop gently into a waiting bag. The total appears. Payment is made. Cashier interaction time, near zero. The system required every product to carry an RFID tag rather than a standard barcode, a significant infrastructure investment. But the result is a checkout experience where shopping and paying are effectively merged.
はい、スキャンできます。今日のお昼はこれにします。
Heated shoe insoles. Solving winter from the ground up. Hokkaido winters are brutal. Temperatures well below freezing for months, snow measured in meters. Japanese product designers addressed the problem from the most mechanically logical point: the sole of the foot, where heat loss is most consequential. Electrically heated insoles from companies including Koyama use flexible heating elements distributed across the insole surface to maintain consistent warmth, regardless of external temperature. Early versions were battery-powered with fixed heat settings. Modern iterations include Bluetooth and companion apps that adjust temperature remotely, set heating schedules tied to your commute, and monitor battery level without removing your shoes. The insole format is the Insight. It heats where it matters most, the foot-to-ground contact surface, without the bulk of winter boots. This matters enormously in Japan, where shoes come off at the door of almost every private home. A heated insole inside normal shoes provides winter warmth without requiring winter footwear. One product. Two problems solved. Self-heating. Ramen containers. Boiling water without fire. The mechanism is chemistry presented as convenience. Inside the base of the container, quicklime, calcium oxide, is separated from a water sachet by a thin membrane. Pull a tab and the membrane ruptures. Quicklime and water react in an exothermic reaction, generating temperatures above 100 degrees Celsius in the sealed chamber below the food compartment. No flame, no electricity, no microwave. The container generates its own heat. This technology was first commercially deployed in Japan for self-heating sake, then expanded to ramen, oden, coffee, and bento formats. The self-heating Shinkansen Ekiben, a station bento heated by this mechanism, has been a fixture of Japanese train travel for decades, sold at convenience stores and outdoor retailers for hikers and winter commuters. You pull a tab, wait a few minutes, and your ramen is hot. The food didn't need a kitchen. The container brought one. Spotless garbage truck. Maintenance. They decided rubbish trucks should be clean. In most countries, a garbage truck is understood to be inherently a dirty vehicle. It collects refuse. Cleanliness is not the expectation. The truck is functional infrastructure, not a presentation object. Japan disagreed. Municipal garbage trucks across Japanese cities are maintained in a state that in other countries would be considered appropriate for a company car. Drivers wash the exterior at the start and end of each shift. Panels are wiped. Branding is kept legible. The cab interior is clean and organized. Many drivers carry small personal touches, a neatly arranged cab, polished trim that reflect individual pride in the vehicle. This standard is not mandated by national regulation. It is maintained by a workforce culture that treats the assigned vehicle as an extension of how the work is performed. The cleanliness of the truck is a statement made voluntarily, maintained consistently, and visible to every person the truck passes through every street of every shift. Public phone charging stations, free power as civic infrastructure. In Japanese train stations, shopping centers, and public squares, free phone charging stations are installed as standard civic amenity, the same category as a public bench or a water fountain. Not the for-profit kiosks that populate airports in other countries, charging by the minute from a locked cabinet. Open free charging points, USB-A, USB-C, wireless pads, maintained by municipal authorities or station operators. No payment, no login, no membership, no time limit. The philosophy Japan applies to public space broadly. Infrastructure should solve the problems people actually experience while using it. A person whose phone has died in a train station has a real, immediate problem. A charging point costs the provider negligible electricity. Manhole cover art. Turning utility into public gallery. Japan has approximately 1.5 million manhole covers, owned by municipalities, required by regulation. Since the Ichi 1980s, municipalities have been commissioning custom designs specific to their city. Kochi's covers feature the Yosakoi dance. Nagoya's show, Nagoya Castle. Coastal towns depict marine life. Some are cast in color using enamel processes that require a genuine double-take to confirm they are infrastructure rather than sculpture. This created an entirely new tourism category, manhole cover collecting, where enthusiasts travel across prefectures to photograph local designs. A formal trading card series, manhole cards, issued free by municipalities to visitors at designated locations, generates measurable tourism revenue for small towns whose primary attraction is, technically, a drain. Umbrella vending machines. The solution. Where the problem is transparent plastic umbrellas are sold in vending machines positioned at the exits of train stations, shopping centers, and convenience stores. The placement is deliberate, exactly at the moment the customer discovers it is raining, as they approach the exit and see the weather. The price is modest. The transaction is 15 seconds. The umbrella is in your hand before you step outside. This sounds almost too simple to mention, until you count how many times in how many countries a person has reached a building exit in unexpected rain, with no recourse except to wait, get wet or pay a street vendor. The umbrella machine is pure problem placement engineering, the product positioned at the exact geographic and temporal coordinates of the problem. Not near it. At it. LED road. Studs that respond to rain and speed. Japan's road infrastructure includes intelligent LED studs embedded in road surfaces and guardrails that respond dynamically to conditions. When sensors detect rainfall, studs increase illumination intensity along wet sections. When vehicle speed exceeds safe thresholds for current conditions, warning patterns change. In tunnel approaches and blind curves, LED sequences guide drivers through road geometry that static markings cannot adequately communicate. The studs are solar-powered during daylight, running from stored charge at night. No external power connection, no trenching. Pressure-resistant to vehicle weight, waterproof, maintenance intervals measured in years. The transparent bathroom that frosts when you lock it in. Yoyogi Fukamachi Mini Park in Tokyo, architect Shigeru Ban designed public bathrooms with entirely transparent glass walls. You see in, you see everything, whether someone is inside, whether it's clean, whether it's safe, before you enter. Lock the door from inside. The glass frosts. Full opacity. Total privacy. The design solves two chronic public bathroom problems simultaneously. First, the fear of what's inside before you enter, which transparent walls eliminate completely. Second, the poor maintenance state of most public bathrooms, which is partly a visibility problem. When a bathroom is on display between uses, its maintenance standards are enforced by that visibility. Clean is the default because dirty is immediately apparent to everyone passing. The Robot Hotel. They staffed an entire hotel with machines. Henna Hotel. Strange Hotel. Opened in Nagasaki in 2015 and holds the Guinness World Record for first hotel primarily staffed by robots. The check-in desk is managed by humanoid robots processing reservations, issuing key cards, and answering questions in multiple languages. A robotic arm retrieves luggage from the cloakroom. Facial recognition replaces room keys. Guests unlock doors by standing in front of them. The operational model was the idea, not the spectacle. Labor costs are the single largest expense in hotel management. A robot check-in system that handles most guest interactions without wages, sick days, or shift scheduling represents a fundamentally different cost structure. The robots were eventually reduced after some units proved frustrating. The ratio of robot to human staff was adjusted. But the concept it launched, a systematic examination of which hotel functions require human judgment and which can be reliably automated, is now an active question throughout global hospitality. Automated multi-story parking towers. Cars stored like library books. Land is the most constrained resource in Japan's dense urban centers. A standard surface parking lot in Tokyo represents an extraordinary land cost per vehicle space. The answer, mechanical parking towers where a car is driven onto a platform, the driver exits, and the car is transported by internal elevator and carousel systems to an assigned space, stacked vertically, arranged horizontally, no ramps, no internal driving lanes, no wasted space. To retrieve the vehicle, the driver uses a ticket or app at the exit terminal. The system locates the car, navigates it back through the carousel to the exit platform, and presents it facing the correct direction, ready to drive, in roughly 90 seconds. These towers store 50 to 200 vehicles in a footprint that would hold 5 to 15 conventional spaces. Land efficiency ratio, 10:1. Forest bathing. As prescribed medicine, Shinrin-yoku. In 1982, Japan's Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries coined Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing, and backed it with a funded research program that ran for over 20 years, producing a body of scientific literature that changed how medicine thinks about environments. The results were measurable and reproducible. Time spent immersed in forest environments reliably reduces cortisol, lowers blood pressure, decreases heart rate, and increases natural killer cell activity, a direct measure of immune function. The compounds responsible are phytoncides, antimicrobial volatile chemicals released by trees and absorbed through the respiratory system during normal breathing in a forest environment. These are not placebo effects. They show up in blood draws and saliva samples before and after controlled forest exposure. The Depa Chica, a gourmet city underground. Depa Chica, Depato, department store, plus Chica, underground, is the basement food hall of a Japanese department store, and it is one of the most remarkable retail environments on Earth. A standard Depa Chica contains between 50 and 200 individual food vendors, artisan bakeries, regional sake producers, premium confectioners, sushi counters, hot prepared food stalls, French pastry operations, fresh noodle makers, fruit sellers with individual grapes priced at thousands of yen. Not food court stalls, full businesses operating at standalone premium shop standards, compressed into a dense, curated environment. Escalator lane. Etiquette and unwritten law. Everyone follows in Japanese cities. There is an unwritten rule governing escalators. Stand on one side, leave the other clear for walking. In Tokyo, stand left, walk right. In Osaka, stand right, walk left. These conventions are posted nowhere, enforced by no authority. Transmitted entirely through observation and social expectation. Learn the way language is learned, by being in the environment long enough to absorb the pattern. Compliance is high enough that the walkable lane flows continuously on busy escalators. A tourist standing on the wrong side will find a patient queue forming behind them within seconds. Not aggressive, not verbal, just a density of people waiting for the obstruction to resolve. The social pressure is enough. It always is. What Japan created here is spontaneous, cooperative infrastructure. A behavioral convention with the measurable efficiency properties of an engineered system. Coin locker culture. Temporary storage as civic utility. Coin lockers in Japan are not an afterthought of station design. They are planned, scaled, continuously iterated infrastructure that treats temporary personal storage as a genuine urban need. Major Tokyo stations contain thousands of individual lockers in multiple size categories, from laptop bag units to full rolling suitcase capacity. Payment by IC card, cash, or QR code. Remotely reservable, accessible anytime within the rental period, extendable online. Some stations offer temperature-controlled units for perishable items. Availability updates in real time so users can check before arriving. Sound-absorbing highway walls with embedded aesthetics. Japan's elevated expressways pass through dense urban and suburban areas where traffic noise is a persistent quality-of-life problem for millions of residents. The highway sound barrier, typically a plain concrete or metal panel, has become in Japan a designed object. Japanese barriers are engineered for acoustic performance first. Multi-layer construction tuned to vehicle noise frequencies, curved profiles that deflect sound upward rather than reflecting it back into lanes, and transparent acrylic panels in residential areas that maintain noise performance without the visual dominance of solid walls. Cat cafes, monetizing animal companionship without ownership. The Cat Cafe originated in Taiwan in 1998, but was adopted, refined, and proliferated in Japan from 2004 to a degree that made the format globally synonymous with Japanese urban culture. By 2010, Tokyo alone had over 60 cat cafes. The format had become a recognized commercial category with its own regulatory framework. The insight it operationalized was specific. A large proportion of Japanese urban apartment leases prohibit pet ownership. The demand for animal companionship, documented to reduce cortisol and improve psychological well-being through mechanisms similar to Shinrin-yoku, existed in a population legally unable to fulfill it at home. The cat cafe became the infrastructure that bridged the gap. Japan's cat cafes employ resident cats socialized for the environment, managed by staff monitoring health, rotation, and rest periods, and regulated by animal welfare guidelines establishing minimum care standards. Temperature display. Bath faucets. the tap that tells you before you touch Japanese bathroom faucets and shower units. Commonly featured digital temperature displays built directly into the fixture, a small readout showing current water temperature before, during, and after contact. You do not put your hand under the water to check. The number tells you. This is most consequential at the extremes of the age range. Young children and elderly people face the highest risk of scalding from hot water contact. A digital readout removes the need to test by touch, which itself carries injury risk if the water is too hot. For elderly users in Japan, where the bathing tradition involves very hot water and where bathing-related incidents including heat stroke are a documented health concern, confirming temperature before immersion is a measurable safety feature. Construction site hoardings as community experience. When a construction site goes up in Japan, the hoarding surrounding the perimeter is treated as a design brief, not an afterthought. Major construction hoardings in Tokyo and Osaka are covered with commissioned artwork, architectural illustrations of the completed building, historical photographs of the site's previous occupants, or carefully produced graphic schemes that turn the disruption into something worth looking at. Children's hospitals under construction have produced hoardings decorated with characters and educational content at child height. Landmark projects have commissioned local artists. Some hoardings incorporate small windows so passersby can watch the construction rather than face only an opaque barrier. IC card transit system. One card for everything. Japan's Suica, Pasmo, and regional IC card variants form a contactless infrastructure that has become one of the most integrated civilian payment systems anywhere on Earth. A Suica card works on virtually every train, subway, bus, and monorail across Japan, across different operators, different cities, different fare structures, without any additional setup or registration. The same card pays at convenience stores, vending machines, taxis, coin lockers, and retail shops nationwide. Transit gates open in 0.2 seconds on tap. Faster than a ticket, faster than a barcode scan, faster than any alternative the system replaced. The balance carries indefinitely and never expires. The card is now embeddable in a smartphone's NFC chip, so the physical card isn't required at all. Contactless payment exists in many other countries. Heated toilet seats. The thing that makes everywhere else feel unfinished. Over 80% of Japanese households have a toilet with a heated seat. The seat is pre-warmed to body temperature before you sit. The toilet knows you're approaching because of a motion sensor in the room, and the seat begins warming as you enter. Sitting on a cold toilet seat in winter is so universally uncomfortable, it has become a figure of speech. The solution: a thin heating element under the seat surface, controlled by a thermostat, triggered by motion, is not technologically complex. It is not expensive at scale. It has existed in Japan since 1980. The rest of the world still almost universally sits on cold toilet seats in winter. The reason is not engineering. It is simply that Japan solved this, and most other countries have not yet decided to. Vending machine disaster mode. The machine that feeds you when everything fails. Japan's vending machine network has one function that no other country replicates at scale: disaster supply mode. In the event of a declared emergency, earthquake, major flood, disaster declaration, networked vending machines across Japan can be remotely switched to free dispensing mode by the operator or municipal authority. The machines release their contents without payment. Water, hot drinks, food items, dispensed free of charge at the moment they are most needed by machines that were selling at standard prices 30 seconds before the earthquake struck. This is not theoretical. Following the 2011 Tohoku earthquake, vending machines in affected areas dispensed free drinks at disaster sites. The system has been formally structured since. Multiple municipalities hold signed agreements with vending machine operators specifying trigger conditions, the communication protocol for activating free mode, and the compensation mechanism through which operators are reimbursed by local government for the stock they surrender. No improvisation is required at the moment of crisis. The infrastructure decision was made before the crisis. Everything else is automatic. The machines are already in every train station, every street corner, every public space. They are the most distributed point-of-sale network in the country. In a disaster, that distribution becomes the relief distribution network. The vending machine in Japan is not a convenience product. It is, when everything else fails, infrastructure. The glass that fills itself from the bottom. At certain Japanese bars, you place an empty glass on a pressurized platform. Beer rises through a valve in the base, filling upward from below. Foam forms naturally at the top where it belongs. When the glass is full, you lift it. The valve seals itself on removal. Not a drop spills. The physics behind this are simply better than conventional pouring. When beer falls into a glass from above, the impact forces carbonation out of solution aggressively, producing excess foam and reducing the liquid ratio. Filling from below allows the beer to rise with minimal agitation, preserving carbonation and producing a consistent, precise pour with no trained technique required from the operator. Japan applied engineering to the specific moment of the pour and found that the moment had been done wrong for centuries. The beer didn't change. The direction it travels changed. The result is measurably better. Japan noticed the physics were wrong, corrected them, and moved on. The parking tower that retrieves your car in 13 seconds. In Tokyo and Osaka, where land costs make surface parking economically absurd, automated towers store cars vertically across 15 or more floors. The process is straightforward. You drive onto a ground-level platform, step out, and walk away. A carousel and elevator system takes the car, locates an available bay, and parks it without a human touching it. To retrieve the vehicle, you insert your ticket. The tower locates your specific car, rotates the carousel, aligns the elevator, and delivers it to ground level facing the exit direction in under 2 minutes. You never enter the building. You never navigate a ramp or search a level. The car comes to you. The same footprint that parks one car at surface level parks 40 in a tower. Japan ran out of horizontal space, looked upward, and built a machine to manage what gravity alone could not. The driver stands outside and waits 13 seconds. Most people spend longer finding a button in a standard elevator. The road that melts its own snow. Niigata Prefecture receives some of the heaviest snowfall of any inhabited region on Earth. Its roads do not need plowing. They melt their own snow using a pipe network embedded beneath the asphalt through which groundwater circulates continuously during winter. Groundwater in Japan maintains a stable temperature of 12 to 15 degrees Celsius year-round, well above freezing. Pumped through pipes beneath the road surface, this water keeps the asphalt just warm enough that falling snow melts on contact before it accumulates. No salt trucks. No overnight crews, no corroded infrastructure from years of chemical treatment, no contaminated runoff entering local waterways. The system has operated in Niigata since the 1960s. Japan looked at cold climate infrastructure's most disruptive seasonal problem and found the solution sitting directly underground. It needed only pipes to connect them. The road has been managing winter passively for 60 years, while most cold climate cities are still paying people to drive in circles with salt. The vending machine that gives away food during earthquakes.
For the next week, I'm living on the best 20 vending machines in Tokyo, Japan, starting with number 20 of the 7-Eleven vending machine, with having different types of sandwiches and even hot meal.
Japan has around 5 million vending machines, many designed to switch into emergency mode. When earthquakes strike, selected units detect seismic activity or receive signals to release their contents for free. In disaster moments, when stores close and supply chains fail, these machines become instant relief points. They run on backup power and are already distributed across cities, stocked with water, food, and hot drinks. Japan didn't build separate emergency infrastructure, it upgraded what already existed. The same machines used daily transform into a decentralized support system, providing immediate access to essentials when traditional systems are disrupted. The machine that sanitizes library books. In 30 seconds, library books pass through hundreds of hands. They travel on public transport, sit on floors, and are handled during meals. The pages accumulate bacteria, particulate matter, and general contamination that the standard return process does nothing about. Most library systems have accepted this as unavoidable. Japanese public libraries installed ultraviolet sanitizing machines at return desks. A returned book is placed inside, the pages are rapidly aerated in front of UV light, and within 30 seconds, the interior surfaces are sanitized. No heat, no moisture, no chemicals that would damage paper or binding. The book returns to the shelf in measurably cleaner condition than it arrived. 30 seconds per book. A hygiene reality present in every lending library on Earth and acknowledged by almost none of them. Japan decided it wasn't unavoidable, which it turns out, it wasn't. It just required someone to build the machine and the decision to install it. Both took less time than the problem had been running unchecked. The underground carousel that swallows your bicycle. A circular platform sits flush with the pavement. You roll your bike on, tap a card, and step back. In seconds, the EcoCycle takes it underground into a rotating storage drum. It disappears completely. Retrieval is just as fast. Your exact bike returns in seconds. Built for dense cities, it stores hundreds of bicycles beneath a 1-meter surface footprint. No clutter, no theft, no space lost. Instead of expanding racks, Japan moved the entire system underground, automated it, and returned the street above to pedestrians. The needle that shows you the vein before it enters. Drawing blood in patients with hard-to-find veins often leads to multiple attempts and discomfort. Japan addressed this with near-infrared vein imaging devices that make veins visible before insertion. The device projects infrared light onto the skin, and because hemoglobin absorbs it differently, a real-time map of veins appears directly on the surface. Clinicians can see exactly where to insert the needle, improving first-attempt success and reducing stress for both patient and provider. Japan treated the issue not as a skill limitation, but as a visibility problem. By revealing what was hidden, it transformed a routine but difficult procedure into a far more precise and comfortable experience. The luggage that arrives before you do. Japan's nationwide luggage forwarding service, Takyuben, removes the burden of carrying bags while traveling. Through Yamato Transport, you can drop luggage at hotels, airports, or convenience stores, and it arrives at your next destination, often the same day or by morning. With precise tracking and thousands of access points, the system is reliable and widely used. Travelers move freely through stations, stairs, and crowded streets without baggage. Instead of improving luggage itself, Japan eliminated the need to carry it. The responsibility shifts from the individual to the network, which handles it more efficiently. The sliding wall that predates every open-plan office by centuries. Traditional Japanese interiors use fusuma, sliding panels made of wood and paper that divide space without consuming it. Unlike hinge doors, they don't need clearance and can be removed to merge rooms instantly. A space can shift from private to open in seconds, then back again. This principle underlies modern flexible design, sliding partitions, folding walls, and open-plan layouts. Japan built it into homes over 1,000 years ago. The idea is simple. A wall should exist only when needed. When it isn't, it should disappear. Japan normalized this concept so completely that it became invisible, while the rest of the world continues to rediscover it as innovation. The salon chair that fixed the part everyone hated. The typical salon shampoo requires awkward neck craning over a basin and accepted discomfort in most places. Japanese salons redesigned this with a head spa arch, a padded, contoured support that keeps the head and neck in a natural, relaxed position. Clients recline fully, with no strain, allowing the wash to feel genuinely calming rather than tolerable. What was once a minor inconvenience becomes a comfortable, extended experience. The change is simple but deliberate. Japan identified an unnecessary discomfort and removed it. No advanced technology, just attention to how something feels, and the decision that it should feel better. The professional whose entire job is your ears. In Japan, there are businesses whose complete and entire service is ear cleaning. You arrive, recline, rest your head in the practitioner's lap, and undergo a 20 to 40-minute session in which your ears are professionally cleaned using small bamboo scoops, cotton spirals, and fine brushes, while receiving a scalp massage simultaneously. This is not a medical procedure. It is a grooming and relaxation service with centuries of history in Japanese domestic culture, where cleaning a family member's ears was an act of intimate care. The commercial parlor formalizes that intimacy as a bookable wellness appointment. Clients return regularly. The experience is described consistently as deeply calming in a way that resists full explanation until it has been experienced. Japan identified a personal care need that the rest of the world left commercially unaddressed, possibly because the proximity required felt awkward to formalize, and made it a legitimate industry with trained practitioners and loyal repeat clientele. The awkwardness was the only barrier. Japan removed it. The platform door that made the rail unsafe to reach. In most metro systems, the platform edge is an unguarded drop to electrified rails. A stumble, a moment of inattention, or an accidental push is the complete distance between a passenger and a fatal outcome. Safety lines are painted on the floor. Announcements are made. Incidents still happen. Japan's modern metro stations install full-height screen doors along the entire platform edge, a continuous sealed barrier between waiting passengers and the track, opening only when a train arrives and its doors align precisely with the screen panels. When no train is present, the barrier is sealed. The fall to the rail does not exist as an accessible hazard. An entire category of incident is eliminated. Dropped items cannot land on live rails. Climate control becomes possible since the platform is now sealed from the tunnel environment. Safety and energy efficiency from a single decision. Japan built it in as standard for new stations. Other metro systems are retrofitting it at significant expense. The logic was always there. The door just needed to be built. The weighing scale that moves information to when it's useful. Standard airport check-in produces a consistent and predictable pressure point. You reach the desk, lift your bag onto the scale, discover it is overweight, and manage a public negotiation about fees or frantic repacking while a queue waits directly behind you. The information arrives at the worst moment in the worst location. Japanese airports and hotel lobbies install floor-level scales in pre-check-in areas. The scale sits flush with the floor. You roll your bag directly onto it without lifting. The weight displays. You discover the problem, if there is one, before the queue, before the desk, before the social pressure, with space and time to solve it privately. The floor-level scale does not change what the information is. It changes when and where you receive it. Japan understands that the delivery point of information is as important as the information itself, and engineers both with equal care. The scale is a small thing. The principle it represents applies to almost every friction point in any organized system. The chocolate bar that became a map of a country. Japan produces over 300 regional and limited edition Kit Kat varieties, many exclusive to specific prefectures and available only through local shops and train station kiosks. Wasabi in Shizuoka, Hokkaido melon with cream cheese, matcha in Kyoto, purple sweet potato in Okinawa. The name Kit Kat sounds close to Kitokatsu. You will surely win, making it a culturally embedded examination gift. Nestlé Japan developed this in partnership with regional governments and local ingredient suppliers, converting a standardized global product into a hyper-local collectible functioning simultaneously as gift, souvenir, and regional cultural artifact. Travelers now route through specific prefectures to find varieties unavailable anywhere else. The product became a tourism driver. A commodity chocolate bar became a detailed map of Japan's regional identity, with each prefecture represented by flavor. Japan took a globally uniform product and made it express local specificity so precisely that people travel to find the right one. That is not marketing. That is a fundamental rethinking of what a chocolate bar is allowed to do. The tiny apartment that makes larger ones feel unfinished. Tokyo's housing density has produced residential units of 15 to 25 square meters, where every decision is load-bearing. Every wall serves a function. Every surface carries storage. Beds fold into walls. Fixtures are sized precisely to the space, rather than adapted from standard dimensions that assume more room. Nothing is approximate. Nothing is wasted. The result consistently surprises people encountering these spaces for the first time. A well-designed Tokyo micro-apartment often feels more functional than a Western apartment twice its size, because the larger apartment contains loosely purposed zones and dead square footage, while the micro-apartment cannot afford either. Constraint produced precision. The design intelligence that emerges from extreme space limitation, multi-function furniture, vertical storage, modular organization is transferable regardless of floor area. Japan generates it out of necessity. The rest of the world borrows it because it works even when the necessity is removed. Japan was forced into the best version of residential design by a real estate market that left no alternative. The capsule toy machine that contains actual art. Gachapon, Japan's capsule vending machines, are understood internationally as novelty toy dispensers for children. This understanding is approximately 30 years out of date. Insert a coin, turn a handle, receive a plastic capsule. That is still the mechanism. What the capsule contains has become something else entirely. Japanese manufacturers, including Bandai and Kyoto, now produce capsule series with the material quality of display collectibles. Anatomically detailed marine biology models. 1 to 12 scale miniature foods with individual textures rendered in resin. Fully articulated figures small enough to rest on a fingertip. Artists collaborate with manufacturers on limited series that sell out within hours. Secondary markets develop around rare capsule series. Collectors plan travel routes around machine locations. Japan decided that a low price point, a randomized outcome, and a miniature scale were interesting creative constraints rather than limiting ones, and asked a serious question. What do you make when it must be beautiful, fit in a capsule, and cost under $5? Japan has answered that question tens of thousands of times. The answers are frequently extraordinary. The stamp that lets you build your own calendar. Japanese stationery culture produced the connecting calendar stamp set, a series of self-inking stamps producing individual date components, day blocks, month headers, and time grids that interlock on paper to construct a custom planning layout from scratch. No pre-printed planner, no rigid template. You stamp the structure the specific week or project requires, and plan within what you built. Pre-printed planners impose a structure that may not fit the user's actual planning reality. Weekly grids assume a scale. Monthly layouts assume a rhythm. The stamp set allows the user to construct planning architecture from scratch at whatever scale the moment requires. Japan's stationery industry consistently treats every small friction in physical desk work as a legitimate design problem. The connecting stamp extends that principle to the container of planning itself, not just what tools are used within a plan, but what shape the plan should take. Most productivity tools give you a structure and tell you to adapt. Japan made a tool that adapts to you. The private space. Hiding inside every Japanese city, the Japanese manga cafe, Manga Kisa, is a private pod facility found across urban Japan. For an hourly fee, you access a small, enclosed personal booth with a reclining chair, computer, internet, and access to thousands of manga volumes. Shower facilities, a drink bar, light food, and blankets are included. You can stay an hour. You can stay 12. They are used by commuters who missed the last train, remote workers needing private space, travelers between flights, and people experiencing housing insecurity for whom a conventional room is financially out of reach. The Manga Cafe is a formal, affordable, dignified short-term private space in cities where hotel rooms are expensive and public space is relentlessly shared. Japan created a commercial product that incidentally functions as a social infrastructure layer, providing warmth, shelter, privacy, rest, and connectivity to anyone who needs it, on a pay-per-hour basis, accessible in every major urban area, with no bureaucratic process required to enter. It is a business that quietly does something much larger than being a business. The ice cream that eliminated the part where it falls apart. Traditional ice cream has a built-in flaw. Melting ruins the experience. Cones collapse, bars drip, cups need spoons and surrender to heat. Japan's squeezable ice cream pouch fixes only that problem. The sealed tube lets you push ice cream upward at your own pace. No dripping, no mess, no structural failure. You can pause and continue without consequence. It works in any weather. The ice cream itself hasn't changed. The container has. Japan often improves things this way, not by reinventing them, but by identifying the one part that doesn't work perfectly and redesigning just that piece. The family you can hire for any occasion. Companies like Family Romance employ actors who can be hired as family, friends, or partners. Clients rent a father for events, a companion for gatherings, or a stand-in relative when someone is gone. Actors prepare in advance and stay in character, sometimes across years of repeat engagements. These aren't extreme cases, but ordinary people navigating absence, loss, or distance. Japan identified an emotional gap and treated it as a service need. Whether it feels practical or unsettling depends on perspective, but the system persists because it works, providing presence where life has left space empty. The smoking room that satisfied both sides. Debates on indoor smoking usually split between allowing it or banning it. Japan engineered a third option. In airports, offices, and malls, designated smoking rooms are sealed, negatively pressured spaces with advanced filtration. Air flows inward, preventing smoke from escaping when doors open. Smokers use the space freely. Non-smokers nearby experience nothing. It's not a compromise where both sides lose something. It's a solution where both needs are met. Japan approached the conflict as an engineering problem, not a policy choice. Instead of picking a side, it redesigned the environment so opposing preferences could coexist without interference. The mascot that generates $1 billion for a single prefecture. Across Japan, nearly every public body has a mascot, known as a yuruchara. These characters range from charming to delightfully odd, yet they serve a clear purpose. Kumaman alone generates massive revenue through licensing, while Funashi turned a quiet suburb into a national name. They're simple designs, but highly effective. By giving institutions a recognizable face, Japan makes even bureaucratic systems feel approachable. It's not complex technology, it's identity design. Japan treats everyday interactions, even with government or agriculture, as experiences worth shaping. Sometimes, a drawing is enough to change how people connect with a place. The building that moves less than the ground beneath it. Japan sits on multiple tectonic plates, making earthquakes inevitable. Its most advanced defense isn't visible in the structure, but hidden beneath it. Base isolation systems use layered rubber and lead bearings between a building and the ground. When earthquakes strike, the ground moves while the building above experiences far less motion. Hospitals rely on this to stay functional during disasters. Decades of real-world testing have refined the technology, making Japan a global leader. Most people inside these buildings never notice the difference. The safety isn't obvious. It works quietly beneath them, reducing force, protecting structure, and keeping critical spaces operational when they are needed most. The building that disappears underground and holds 204 bicycles. Everything here shares one idea: questioning the ordinary. In Japan, the answer is often no. It doesn't have to work that way. Problems aren't adjusted. They're redefined. The eco-cycle captures this perfectly. You roll your bike onto a small panel, tap a card, and it disappears underground into a compact automated system. Seconds later, it returns only to you. No clutter, no theft, no compromise. The street stays clear because the problem no longer exists on the surface. Japan doesn't manage inefficiency. It removes it, often invisibly, and restores space back to people. Occupancy lights on bathroom stalls. Walk into a Japanese public bathroom. Walk into a Japanese public bathroom. Above each stall door is a small light. Green means available. Red means occupied. You see at a glance which stalls are open. No walking down the row pushing doors. No awkward shoe check under the gap. Just look up. This is a $1 sensor per stall, wired to the lock. The technology's existed forever. Hotels do something similar at elevator banks. Japan applied the same idea to bathrooms, and finding an open stall takes 2 seconds instead of 15. American public bathrooms still have you doing the walk and push routine, occasionally interrupted by a startled occupant who forgot to lock the door. Keys you can only remove when the door is locked. Japanese door locks, especially in apartment buildings, have a specific feature. You can only pull the key out when the door is locked. If the door is unlocked, the key stays in. So you physically cannot leave your apartment without locking the door behind you, because if you tried, you'd have to leave your key inside. This eliminates an entire category of forgot to lock the door anxiety. You walked away with the key. The key proves the door is locked. American door locks let you remove the key whether the door is locked or unlocked. So Americans have to remember to lock the door, verify they locked it, sometimes go back to check it, and occasionally show up at work still unsure whether they actually locked it. The Japanese system removes the question by removing the option. Convenience store chicken. That's actually good. Japanese convenience stores sell hot fried chicken from a heated case by the register. It's called karaage. Properly cooked, properly seasoned, served fresh in a small paper bag. Costs about $2. Millions of people eat it for lunch every day. American convenience stores sell rotating taquitos that have been on the heat lamp since the previous administration. The difference isn't ingredients. The difference is that Japanese convenience stores take food seriously as a category, with daily turnover, careful prep, and quality control. The infrastructure is identical. The decision to actually try is what separates them. Wet wipes instead of napkins. Japanese restaurants often hand you individually wrapped wet wipes instead of, or along with, paper napkins. The wipes are properly damp, actually clean your hands, and don't fall apart the moment they touch sauce. They cost slightly more per unit than napkins. They work miles better. American restaurants give you a thin paper napkin that absorbs nothing, tears immediately, and leaves your hands about as dirty as they started. Japan made the small upgrade. Toilets with sinks built into the tank. Older Japanese toilets often have a small faucet on top of the tank. When you flush, clean water runs through the faucet, you wash your hands, and the water then fills the tank for the next flush. The same water does 2 jobs. Water that was going to refill the tank anyway gets used to wash hands first. This saves a small amount of water per flush. Multiplied across 125 million people across decades, the savings are stupid huge. The plumbing is simpler, not more complicated. The technology is older than most Americans alive today. American bathrooms have a toilet and a separate sink, with 2 separate water lines, doing 2 things that Japanese plumbing combined into one fixture in the 1950s. Street cleaning. That actually happens daily. Here's something that gets me every time. Tokyo, a city of 14 million people, is cleaner than most American towns of 14,000. It's not because Tokyo residents are inherently tidier. It's because shopkeepers sweep the street in front of their businesses every morning. Not because a law requires it, because that's what you do when you have a shop. The amount of daily litter in any city is small if it gets removed daily. It becomes a problem only when it piles up. Japan removes it daily through distributed individual effort. America waits for municipal services that show up weekly or sometimes never. The cost is 15 minutes per shop per morning. The result is a city that doesn't need industrial-scale cleanup because the dirt never gets a chance to accumulate. Reserving a seat with a bag. In Japanese cafes and casual restaurants, if you want a seat, you put a personal item on the chair. A bag, a coat, a book. That seat is now yours. Go order, come back. Your seat is still there. No app, no reservation, no host. The whole system runs on the social agreement that a marked seat is a taken seat. It works because everyone respects it. American cafes have the same physical setup and no such system. Leave to order, come back, your seat is gone. Or you stand in line holding your bag and your coat and your laptop bag while debating whether to risk leaving them. The agreement costs nothing. It just requires that everyone keep it. Shoes off at the doctor's office. A lot of Japanese medical offices ask you to take your shoes off at the entrance and put on provided slippers. The waiting room stays clean. The exam rooms stay clean. The medical environment doesn't get constantly tracked through with street debris. This is a free upgrade to medical hygiene. All it takes is a shoe shelf at the entrance. American medical offices have you walking from the parking lot straight onto the exam room floor with whatever was on your shoes. Japan added 5 seconds of slipper changing and removed the daily intrusion of outside contamination into clinical spaces. Handkerchiefs as standard equipment. Japanese adults carry a small fabric handkerchief in their pocket or bag. It's universal. Public bathrooms in Japan often don't have paper towels or hand dryers because the assumption is you brought your own way to dry your hands. The handkerchief is reusable, washable, generates no waste, and is always available. Public bathroom infrastructure can be simpler because users show up prepared. The environmental impact of not consuming millions of paper towels daily is enormous. America built its bathroom infrastructure around the assumption that everyone needs disposable paper. Japan built its around the assumption that everyone has a handkerchief. The cost of that assumption is one piece of cloth. School uniforms that kill fashion. Competition: Japanese students wear uniforms from elementary through high school. The uniforms get rid of daily decisions about what to wear, hide visible income differences through clothing, and prevent the social hierarchy that builds around fashion brand recognition. It's not about conformity for its own sake. It's about removing a daily friction point and a social comparison that has no academic value. The uniform is a small constraint that produces a big simplification. American schools have mostly chosen against uniforms in favor of dress codes that try to regulate the same thing through prohibition rather than provision. The dress code needs constant enforcement. The uniform only needs to exist. Free charging stations at train stations. Here's a small one that hits you the moment your phone hits 8%. Most major Japanese train stations have free public charging stations sitting right there in the open. Not behind a paywall, not buried in some hidden corner near the bathrooms. Out where you can actually see them, usually near the platforms or by the seating areas where people are already waiting. You plug in, you wait for your train, you leave with a charged phone. The whole thing costs the train station roughly the price of an outlet and a small kiosk to install. I've used them probably 100 times. Tokyo Station, Shinjuku, Kyoto, smaller regional stops nobody outside Japan has heard of. They all have them. The cables are sometimes built into the kiosk itself, so you don't even need to be carrying yours. You just plug into whatever connector your phone uses and stand there for 10 minutes while your battery climbs out of the danger zone. American train stations have benches. Sometimes. The assumption is you showed up with a charged phone, or you'll deal with it. If you're lucky, you'll find one outlet behind a vending machine that somebody else got to first and is now using to charge a laptop while watching Netflix. Otherwise, you're stuck. Japan figured travelers need power and gave them power. That's the whole logic. The infrastructure cost was minimal. The benefit, for millions of daily commuters who can now arrive at their destination with a working phone instead of a dead one, is continuous. It's the kind of small public service that costs almost nothing and quietly changes the entire experience of using public transit. Trash and recycling. Separated on every street. Wherever Japan has public trash receptacles, they always separate. Burnable, non-burnable, PET bottles, cans, paper. 5 categories, side by side, clearly labeled, used correctly by almost everyone. Japan's recycling rate is way higher than America's. Not because Japanese people care more, but because the infrastructure makes correct sorting obvious. The bins are there, the labels are clear, behavior follows. American recycling is a confusing patchwork of single-stream bins, regional rules nobody fully understands, and contamination rates so high that big chunks of recyclables end up in landfills anyway. Japan invested in the bins. Staff who bow when you leave a store. Walk out of any Japanese store, from a corner shop to a department store. The staff thanks you. They bow. They watch you leave with attention. The transaction ends with acknowledgement instead of indifference. This costs nothing. Takes 2 seconds. Changes the entire texture of routine commerce. The customer feels seen. The staff member performs a small ritual that maintains professional posture. The interaction has a shape, a beginning, and an end. American retail mostly abandoned this. You buy your thing, you leave, the next transaction starts before you've crossed the threshold. The acknowledgement is gone. The relationship between buyer and seller is reduced to the bare minimum. The bow at the door is the smallest possible signal that a transaction is also a human exchange. Of all the things on this list, this one might be the most telling. Because it's not infrastructure, it's not technology, it's not design, it's just attention. The simplest thing of all. I still think about that 7-Eleven counter in Osaka sometimes. The cashier with the patience, the little plastic tray, the look on her face when I finally figured it out. Nothing about that moment cost anyone anything. Nothing about it required any particular technology or institutional effort. It just required that someone, somewhere, sometime decades ago, decided the small thing was worth doing. And then everyone after them kept doing it. That's the whole pattern. That's all of it. Subscribe, and we'll keep finding them. See you next time.